Growing up on Woodward in Michigan, there was a place, Stark Hickey Ford, had the first, had one of these and also had a Mustang GT 350, the original GT 350. This was the Hearst model, and it's one of 50 Hearst 5-speed, or 4-speeds rather. And I always wanted one of these. I built the model car of it. I had a remote control version of it. And when I became where I pretty much purchased every car I dreamt about having and every car I had a model of. I don't have a full-size USS Missouri battleship. I do have the model of that. So one of these days I'll have that in here. Most of the block will be taken up by that. Again, the funny thing about this, it's pretty much as it was. It hasn't been touched. It's a brilliant piece. But I'm lazy. Once again, see, this is why you've got to read all the details when you buy a building. Soundstage, not a real good idea. I drove this car and I asked the guy years into it, I go, I don't know. I'm having a tough time steering it and backing it up. And he goes, yeah, it's a 66 Mustang. And I went, oh yeah. They don't drive real well when you compare anything to the modern cars. You still, wow. It's stiff, manual steering, very hard to drive, gorgeous car. Can't get out of its own way. It's just not that quick. It's more of a visceral thing. Now, this thing has just been fixed up. A 1950 Series 61 Caddy. I knew nothing about this. It was a barn find. I love this era of Cadillac. I love everything about this thing. It's almost the Buick of Cadillacs. It's got a vinyl interior. It's got a period correct engine. I knew nothing about these engines. I had to go learn about this with a guy down in Orange County, an older man that knew all about this. One of my best friend's dads worked for Cadillac, and before he passed away, told us which is the right engine for this. And I learned so much about these, and I got original 3 Strombergs on this in the engine. And this has just been finished. It was all patinaed, sitting in a barn forever, and I drove it for years like that. And then I brought it back to the original color. The interior we took, it had factory seat covers on it. Took the seat covers off and everything looks brand new. I get probably more thumbs up with this car driving, but it's great. It's got some punch to it. Again, accurate. I don't know if it's accurate. My Cadillac guy said this is actually less weight than the new ones. It's all metal. There's very little body to this, and this was the body style they raced, I think, in Le Mans, if I got it correct. This is my wife considers this the divorce car. When I was a kid, in our neighborhood, we had a lot of kids in a house, so we lived very well. But the rich kids that were 4 blocks over, their dads drove this thing, a Cadillac Fleetwood Brome d'Elegance. I mean, they wouldn't stop with the names. This is what every rich guy had. I bought it, put skeleton lights on the front, blacked out what I could. One of my buddies says it's like a combination of funeral parlor with car. The interior, as you can see, is overdone. I brought it back to where it was, blacked out what I thought. Again, I've driven this. All I get thumbs up for is older people in walkers. It is, my wife says, you bring that home again and you bring that car home again, we'll get divorced. She absolutely, somewhere in her history, this was bad people drove it. To me, this was the first sign of wealth if you've had one of these things. Now, get around my idiotic Tesla, which I love and hate relationship. Again, this is what's happening. I drove this, my Jaguar E-type 65, I believe. It was a 99-point restoration probably 25 years ago when I bought it. And I think it's the best looking car ever made. I think one of the Ferrari team owners said the same thing. It might even been the owner, Mr. Ferrari. There's nothing like this automobile. It feels delicate. I feel like I need a pencil-thin mustache or one of those round hats with a cane when I'm driving it. Everything is like this. I've been pushing it a little bit. I got to be honest with you. Just want to see how it handles. It's much more substantial than it looks. The A-arm suspension to me is delicate. Everything about this thing seems delicate. The interior, the wheel, the switches. But you get this in a corner, not bad. The last time we came through, we have a bad booster problem. Nothing like having no brakes, I will tell you that. As I'm pulling up really good to up on Lancashire, I'm hauling, and I'm not hauling, of course, within the speed limit. What am I saying? I didn't say hauling. And I come and I'm going, damn, that's weird how fast that car's coming up. And then all I'm thinking is how much damage I would do to this aluminum jumbo banging. I did stop. We did figure out it was an old booster, and you know, you don't drive them. That's what happened. Switching gears, a better view of this over. Come over here. This is a happy accident. You'd have to see that angle right there. I used to race another guy, Kirk O'Green, if he's out there. His dad, Kirk O'Green, was one of my high school buddies. His dad had a Ford dealership, and he had Cobra Jet Torino. Okay, so keep that in mind. So I saw this view. Well, it has a shaker hood on. It's not on that right because we're having a starter problem with this. I like the way we are. Somebody is. I'm not fixing it because I'm doing a TV show right now. Had a shaker hood on. I saw the picture of it. It was tragically from a collection where the dad had passed away, and I don't like getting involved in that because but the kids didn't want the stuff anymore. So I bought one of this, and it was a great price, and I love the car. And I get it here, and I'm going, it looks different than I remember. It goes like squirt. This is a fast car, an old drag car. And then I realized this isn't a Torino, it's a Falcon. And I went, what? And I had to look it up, and they made a cheap version of the Torino called a Falcon that doesn't have the fastback. It's a notchback, which I didn't want, and then I turned around, it just makes it much more valuable. I don't buy these to sell them, I buy these to drive them. And this is a Ford Falcon with the same Cobra Jet equipment, and it's probably a cheaper version where Ford goes, why would anybody buy the Torino if they could get this? And so they probably canceled this. I don't think they made many of them. Now I think it's an ugly duckling. I love the way it looks. I have a series of cars that I've rebuilt that are the ugly version, but to me, I think they have a lot of class. I really love this car. Again, bench seat, Hurst T-shifter. The tachometer is over the corner. It looks like an oil gauge. It's just tremendous. This is a frightening car because it's a stock car motor. Again, this is my Navy SEAL wife. That's what it feels like sometimes. She likes this. I use this for a movie prop car in Zoom. I think that's the car I drove in Zoom. I saw this many times. For me, especially when I buy weird cars like this, it's the stance of it. It drove up to a bike shop in North Hollywood or West LA. And I'm driving by, and I just come from an audition for a preppy, I don't know what, I was dressed in clothing. I don't like khakis and, topsiders and a shirt, no ascot, I wasn't that far. And the guy that got out of this had an expletive tattooed across his forehead, smart enough to go backwards so that when he's looking at you, it said, something horrible. So I was waving at it because I love this car. He gets out and stares at me. And I thought, oh boy, I forgot I'm dressed like Dad. How are you doing? I look like Thurston Howell. I thought he was going to stab me. He goes, Toolman? And we became friends. I said, is that car for sale? He says, as a matter of fact, it is. As he said, as everyone says, he says, everything is for sale. I bought it, redid the motor, put some air conditioning in it. It's different. It's got plastic bumpers. None of this is real. The hood's not real. It's not really a 71 Nova, essentially. It goes like squirt. I was going to sell it after the movie, and Jane says, I love that car. So now this is her alternate car between the Volvo and the Carmen Ghia and the Bronco. So I said, if you keep driving them, then I'll keep them. It's interesting. It's a drag car, so it's sprung real. My wife, she likes that stuff. This was from Home Improvement. We built both these two hot rods for Home Improvement. This is a piece like no other piece. Can't probably get a picture of the underside. The underside is prettier than the top side. The chassis all chromed. I don't know who did that. We did a piece of the interior I've done. The engine was done by Motor City Flatheads. I don't know anything about flathead motors. All I know is they're interesting because you start them and they don't do anything. They just sit. They don't have any thump. They're so smooth, you wonder why they don't make them anymore. But while they're making this flathead, you see all the pieces on the ground, you go, they're missing something. It's like half the engine is there, the whole overhead valves and all that stuff. Again, technically I'm pretty good. I can build motors, but I don't know much about flatheads. But this is a brilliant flathead. It's pretty quick, considering it's a cruiser. It's been apart many times because when we shot Home Improvement, we had to take it apart and then put it back together for the show in sequence like that. And unlike this one, was the first hot rod we built for Home Improvement. And I learned a lot about hot rods, you know. This is way too much motor, dual quads, look good. It ain't right. I don't know. I said, this was a iconic thing because I used it on Home Improvement. We shot so many episodes with it. So it is what it is. You know, I love it because it's a movie car. This is one of my first resto rods, Pro Street, what do you call it? I love this era of Camaro. There was the fastest Camaro on Woodward by Tom Sherwood. Hey Tom. He used to race one of these. Green, not the SS, the standard RS, even less than that. He had a 327. This is a one-off when I did the voice for Chevrolet for years. This is one of my trades with them. It's a 427, small block 427. They put in the last of the series, the C series vets before the new vets. So I don't think there's another one out there. I don't think. This was the Don Yinko inspired design, which natural flares. There's so much tech in this. The chassis, the interior, but I made it look exactly like a 68 and goes like squirt, a great driver. There's only so much you can do with the way they built them. It's a unibody, so it's the chassis, it's real squeaky, so we re-chassied it. It still wasn't made for that, so you know, the doors, to me, I'm real picky with doors slamming. There's only so much you can do without spending $7 billion redoing everything. However, in it, on it, this car goes like squirt, it handles like it, and it looks exactly like I wanted it to look. Moving on, I don't have I just finished another car, the American version of this, which I have a Corvair Corsa, which I just finished because I used to race Corvairs and Yinko Corvairs. I've always liked Corvairs. They're American Porsches to me, and they're bigger and wider. They're just not as fancy, and they're not as interesting. These motors are terrific. My Corsa, if I can send a picture to you guys, we just finished it. Redid the motor, redid the transmission, redid the suspension, redid the interior, period correct, but I wanted to see if I could keep up with the Porsches. This is a first generation 911S, which I may be wrong, and this is a 356. I think, again, I'm not a real big, I did this because I wanted one of these to beat up. This is the short wheelbase 67 911S. I think they immediately stretched it to the 914, I believe. I'm not a big Porsche guy in that way. I don't know the details. The newer one is stretched. This is too short a wheelbase. Porsche never admits they made a mistake. I think it's the same wheelbase as the 356 with a much bigger motor. And the Andretti family, who are very good friends of mine, told me one day when I was racing this, they said, it's not if it comes around on you, when it comes around. And it is a very tail-happy car. I'm not a tail-happy experienced driver. When a tail-happy car, even mid-engine, goes on you, I'm not sure what you do to get it back. I don't push this car. It was erased, and I've taken all of it, brought it back to stock. Every single thing is this is stock, period correct. It took a long time to get it where it is. It is nothing. I took all the fancy stuff off, left some oil coolers on it, but the motor, took it out, detailed it, put everything back the way it was. It's a brilliant little thing. And as I get out of it, it's a sweet driving automobile. This was the first time I bought something out of another guy's collection as a trade from a BMW, what is it? the CS. I think somebody's going to. It's that gorgeous BMW sedan from the 70s, 71 maybe, 3.0 CS, something like that. I didn't. I just bought it, redid it, didn't like it. Traded it with some dough for this 100-point restoration. I've never had one of these cars. This is better than new. Every part of this, hinges, doors, everything. All due respect, I love the people at Porsche. I've had a lot of Porsches. It is just a Volkswagen, okay? It's just an expensive Volkswagen. Sweet little car, great to drive. You put the 6 in it, it becomes a performance car. This is basically the Carmen Ghia, which I think is prettier. There's something adorable. I don't like that word. There's something manly, mandadorable, there's something cool about it. Every time I've wanted to sell it, I get back in it. It's not the camera motor like, of course, Jay has, so it doesn't have anything to it. To me, it's just a very big, I don't even know the CCs on it. I've done a lot of Volkswagens. I used to have Baja stuff, and I did a lot of modification on Volkswagen motors. This is just real slow, but it's not cumbersome. It's kind of cute, and it's fun to drive. And I'm all the way back to I'm back to where we started. And my God, and look, I don't have any more cars. But that's it. I'm just so happy that you guys showed up, except him. No, just kidding. I like the equipment you have. See, I like that stuff. I have 2 that are very interesting that aren't here. I have a 55 Ford combined with a 55 T-Bird, which I like to do. That Steve Mole up in Oakland took a 5-year build. It's got a GT40 motor in it. It's taken, what I've learned about cars when you build them is Ford Motor Company's a company, Chevy's a company, Ferrari's a company. When you build them from scratch, you don't sort them out till later. And I've got 4 or 5 of these things that took years to sort them out, meaning that you drive it for 4 minutes and there's what's that smell? Oh, the carpet's on fire because all the hydraulic lines ran next to the transmission tunnel. And you do this, but I've got the Corvair, which I just adore. I really like this Corvair because we got it dialed up. My 555 Ford, it's been on TV before. GT40 motor. That thing yesterday, I'm getting senile, I think. It's too loud. You know, I get in that stupid Tesla. I say stupid Tesla because sometimes it goes, I don't think we should be driving in this lane. It'll tell me you should move lanes or you're not allowed in right now. It actually won't let me in the car right. All of a sudden it's just, you're not allowed in. It makes too many decisions for me. I get used to the quiet of that. I get in that 555 or my Demon. God, is that car loud. That said, I'm blessed to be part of this. I said, I love it. I love everything about it. And I said, welcome to my shop and don't tell anybody where you are.
Thank you everybody for watching. Be sure and hit the like button and subscribe.